How's it going, folks? Welcome back to another episode of Mentor Moments. My name is Brayton Wooters, one of your co-hosts alongside Dr. Michael Kiener. On Mentor Moments, we take the time to interview counseling professionals and personal mentors. As you know, this season we've been chatting a lot about leadership, technology, career development, and counseling as a profession. We hope you enjoy this episode of Mentor Moments and keep tuning in. All right, another episode of Mentor Moments. Any updates that we feel like we should give our listeners before we get into what we have planned?
I think we could talk about the Missouri Rehab Association State Conference.
Yes. Anything that our listeners should know about that?
As I think our listeners know, every year we have an annual conference. Once again, it's going to be at Margaritaville on June 12th through the 14th. This year's conference, our theme is Engage, Equip, Empower for Sustainable Success. Again, June 12th through the 14th. There's a couple of new things that we're doing for people who are not members of MRA. We are going to be having a special that if you become a member while at the conference, there'll be a special discount. And for a limited number of people, you'll get a free MRA hooded sweatshirt.
Ooh.
Yeah, right. We're just trying to increase the perks. We are going to be trying to do something different with the opening and closing keynote to tie those together. I don't really want to give any more of information out, but it's going to be, if we can pull this together, it's going to be a new innovative way to do a keynote intro and a closing. I was asked to do some sort of the minor open on the day one when we just talk about why MRA and sort of the value, but really talk about professional engagement. So I'm excited about that. If people have gone, we'll still have the pizza party and some social networking where I think we're going to try to do more yard type games. We're going to do that in the conference hall this year to have a little bit more space with that. We may or may not be doing a trivia night. The second night, we're sort of working on that. Again, we'll have the five tracks and at least 30 sessions. So again, we're looking to continue the success of the last 5 or 6 years with the conference and awards, banquets, hot breakfast 2 days in a row, lunch. So all the things everybody loves at conference, networking, and maybe some Mentor Moments recordings too. We got to see what the future holds.
Yeah. Stay tuned. As someone whose first time at the MRA conference was last year, I can say that it is a lot of fun going. You learn a lot. You get to connect with other professionals. I had a lot of fun last year, and so I knew that after going last year, I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to go the next year. So I'm thankful that this is coming up. And if you're curious about it,
secret about you, I heard
about me. Okay, yeah.
I heard after the conference you got a new tattoo of MRA, like right on your shoulder, right? Isn't that true? You got the logo.
Oh, I'm so glad this is a podcast. It's not like a YouTube video, or else, I'd show this is where I'd reveal to our viewers my.
Believe me, it's there. I see it. And I think, right, on your other shoulder, don't you have like Mentor Moments?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just skipped the podcast logo and just went ahead and got a really realistic photo of you and I. That's
right.
Somewhere on my shoulder. Any other updates? Any other things, like not even just professionally, but maybe in life that's been going on, or anything else?
Well, one thing that it's sort of work, but to me it's very fun, right? Our Eastern chapter of Missouri Rehab Association, we've been really trying to focus on getting people to participate, not so much getting people to buy membership. Like, we want to create a reason for them to buy a membership. So really, how do we help them participate? And from that, or out of that discussion, the board of MRA Eastern chapter asked my class, where I'm teaching an assessment class, to sort of come up with a definition for professional engagement, sort of some characteristics, maybe some kind of Likert scaling where we could sort of quote unquote measure our level of professional engagement, maybe do some other self-help type of questioning. So maybe if somebody was reading a blog, we would give some tips on this for, to read about. So the class is in process. So we got, we're not quite ready to unveil the definition, but we have a working definition. We have 7 characteristics of engagement with examples. So this may be a future podcast too, but that's something that was exciting to me. It's engaging me, that I really want to sort of get this out there and let the world critique it and use it.
I was just thinking about that. I was like, those definitions. You said there's 7. You guys have like, yeah. That feels like an episode that we should probably do whenever that gets.
Wait, I heard something about you, or what's up with you? You have anything new going on with you?
Professionally, I am almost done with provisional licensure, which is great. This spring or like summer-ish should be where I'm finally done, and I'm really excited for that and to see kind of where that leads me. Personally, you're gonna like this. All right, this is where you and I connect. We bridge the gap in generations and I have started collecting VHS tapes. This is my quarter life crisis. Is
Little John Mayer there, your quarter life crisis?
quite literally, and in a last ditch attempt to try to like dig through some nostalgia, I've begun collecting VHS tapes. What were you
Yeah,
gonna
go
say?
ahead.
No,
No, I was
you
gonna say,
go
what are you
first.
going to do with VHS tape? Just
Oh,
watch?
we'll just watch. I've got a. You can't see it, but I've got a VHS tape player here, and I don't know. There's just something. I don't know. It just looks different when it's on a VHS tape. Like how people are like, oh yeah, like records sound different. If you listen to like a record, that's kind of where I'm coming from, I think.
I might have to let sort of a secret out. Are you ready?
You
When
know.
I was 14 years old, portable camcorders, VHS was sort of being maybe more affordable. We had some friends that had them. This was also prime pro wrestling, Hulk Hogan, right?
I think I already know where this is
So,
going.
most people know, like I wrestled in high school, right? And so one evening, we decided to film a pro wrestling event. We had the main event, we had tag team, bunkhouse battle royal, we had commentators, we
Who
had like
who is we?
managers.
Who is we? It's not. It can't be just be you.
No, it was the entire, well, most of our wrestling team. So it and it was, I would say it was pretty, like, again, we had like the outfits. We did a segment working out in our gym at the high school. The band was practicing, so we made them come in and sit in the bleachers to be our crowd. It was pretty good.
Where do you think that tape is?
I think I know I converted to CDs and I don't know that, but I think I might have so if you're a VHS, we might just have to have a party and watch. I was 3 different wrestlers because I was young, so I wasn't cool enough to be like the main guy. And so like two of my characters wore masks and then one didn't, right? And
Oh,
again,
that
it was
kills
a memorable night. It pulled together pretty good.
me. Wow.
So why did you you were just like at a flea market and found this old VHS and like, hey, I'm gonna hook this up and watch movies.
Quite literally, yeah. It was at a like an antique store and I saw it. It was like for like $20 and believe it or not, like VHS, if you were to go try to find a VHS player, they're like actually like probably more expensive now than they probably were at the time whenever they were just becoming a thing. So I mean, I got Space Jam. I mean,
You got to find like the Goonies. You got the Goonies on
I don't have the
VHS?
Goonies. I mean, I don't have the Goonies. Granted, I did just watch the Goonies like a couple months ago for the first time. So that's the exciting stuff that's going on in my life. That's the quarter life crisis that I've entered. A really exciting time, let me tell you. People are just like, Brayton, you're so exciting. moving on to, I think, the purpose of this episode, on top of like, have written a blog post on the MRA Eastern Chapter website.
Yeah, we'll make sure we link it in our description.
Yes. And the title of that is 10 Reasons to be a Joiner in 2024. Being a joiner has been a theme that has been reoccurring here on Mentor Moments, and so I thought, you know what, let's dive deep into why it's important. For those of you who have been listening to Mentor Moments for a while, you probably already know some good reasons to be a joiner, and we thought that we would take a little bit more time in this episode to kind of chat about what those reasons are. So Dr. Keener, if you're okay with it, maybe we can just go like one after another, and like I'll
Yeah,
give a reason, and then
this
maybe
is this
you, and
is
then
you're the star
oh
here.
boy, here we go.
You sort of like gave me credit for the term joiner, and maybe I said it, but actually I have to give credit to my mom, right? I mean, she was the one where I learned this from. She was somebody that was always active in her high school alumni associations and her college alumni association planning. I know she has now since passed away, but I know she both planned and attended both her high school and her college 50-year reunion, and that was important. She also worked with people with disabilities and helping them learn to skate, and did, their yearly event was sort of to go on to our local arena back home and have like a skating sort of theater type event. So
I love
we have to
that.
thank mom for that. So
I appreciate that. Yeah, and it's
yeah,
and it's made its way all the way to this episode and
yeah.
in this article. So yeah.
Yeah, give me your number one reason to join.
Yeah. So number one is personal growth. I believe that we are in a golden age of personal growth. I think that, self-help books are so popular. I feel like they're more popular now than ever. And part of that, I think, might be the internet or TikTok, just like sharing self-help books, but also just because we talk about self-care and we try to be a little, we're such a, I don't know, I could go down the rabbit hole of why, but I found that the quickest track, the most efficient track to growing just as a person, in any stage of life, in any kind of dimension of your life, it's by being a joiner, joining others. It typically doesn't happen, all the time whenever we're just by ourselves or just being really individualistic. It's, if you want to grow as a person, you got to join others. And it sounds counterintuitive, but that's just the way that it works.
Well, I couldn't agree more, and I know we were teasing already our 7 C's of professional engagement, but one was connection, right? Sort of this social and positive relationship. So I will sort of stop there. Well, learning from others is your second tip, right? And I think that's sort of self-explanatory. And again, or maybe it connects with, again, that social piece of the personal growth.
I remember, I mean, in high school and then in undergrad, I was very big on like, if I were to study for class, I was not going to study with anyone else. I was like, if I were to study this and I wanted to learn something, I'm going to lock myself in a broom closet. Nobody bother me. I'm going to do this by myself. And clearly I made a lot of friends that way, I'm sure. Super popular that way. And it wasn't really until grad school, or like right whenever I kind of made that transition out of undergrad, that I realized that whenever I'm studying with other people or learning from other people, not just learning from, but also learning with other people, I grew. It was easier to study things just in life, outside and inside of school.
Well, there is learning theory with that, right? That you can quiz each other or learn from multiple perspectives, or two people are interpreting the same data from different ways. So you can sort of, oh, okay, never thought of it this way, or what about this? And so yeah, there is science behind learning from others.
Yeah, there's something from about like learning from your peers, maybe, as opposed to learning from a teacher. That's just it rings differently, I think. Number three on our list here is cultivating a sense of purpose, whether that looks like, volunteering, whether that looks like a small act like bringing donuts to coworkers, joining other people in something that like really aligns with our values can help us really cultivate that sense of urgency, that sense of purpose in our lives. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Dr. Keener, on
Well, I
all?
guess what made me think so far with our first point, that personal growth and being like maybe even learning from others, there's that connection, right? And now we're talking about purpose. To me, I've been, reading a lot and talking a lot of well-being from positive psychology. We have that PERMA acronym, and part of that acronym talks about meaning or purpose and relationships. And so, perhaps what we're saying is if you're part of a professional organization, you may have a greater sense of well-being.
Mhm.
But again, like I know I'm kind of joking there, or being sarcastic, because we do want people to engage with, MRA or other professional organization. But again, really having a sense of meeting or working towards something that's bigger than yourself, or even just as simple as it could enhance our values of why we want to do what we do. Like this is why we are in the counseling field, right? It reinforces. So again,
Absolutely.
it increases our sense of purpose. So our next point, I guess I'm forgetting on what number this is. Is it
I don't know. 5.
expanding your or our cultural awareness? And again, I think that goes back to, again, when we were sort of learning from others, is that whenever we have more people who come together, they bring a diverse way of thinking, being, living, and that just brings new experiences, whether that's sort of intentional or not. It helps us better understand who we are, perhaps the biases we have. It helps us better understand other cultural ways of being. And then maybe even more specifically from a counseling perspective, we need to really examine the interventions that we're using to make sure that they're still helpful, not harmful.
Yeah, I remember whenever I was writing this, I tried to be very intentional by explaining that it's more or less that it can often look like participating as a guest. And so that's something that I think has been taking root in our language is whenever we're expanding our cultural awareness and we're learning from others, we're learning as a guest, not necessarily as a member in other people's cultures, but taking a role that is, and I'm trying to find a better way to word that. I'm not wording
Well,
this right. What are
yeah,
you
I guess
thinking?
why I'm nodding, I know people can't see that, is when you said that as this, like you're an invited guest, so maybe it's a sacred position, but also one, like you're saying, you're trying to understand, so maybe it's sometimes we say when we respond, are we listening to understand or listening to answer? So here it's that, again, that we're the invited guests and we want to, again, listen to understand.
Next piece, and Dr. Kiener has already kind of touched on it a little bit, and that is all around being a joiner means enhancing your well-being. Social connections have been linked to improved mental and emotional well-being, and participating in a community or group can just help provide, that emotional support, reduce those feelings of isolation, and contribute to that overall happiness. I know that whenever I used to make New Year's resolutions, I was always like trying to schedule like workouts and stuff like that, or like this is what I'm going to try to eat and like eat healthier, or like these are the times that I'm going to go to the gym. And I wasn't ever really spending as much time trying to schedule time with people or time with my friends or anything like that. And what I found is that if I'm not joining others, then I'm missing something that's super valuable.
Yeah, I think I've been thinking a lot about being more intentional in things, right? And so instead of letting things happen by happenstance, like, oh yeah, I know I should do this and sort of whatever, but no, let's try to be more intentional. All right, fostering a sense of community. When I think about that term, and it makes me think of my wife, Audrey, who she has very diverse hobbies, right? She loves her animals. She loves plants. She loves crocheting. She loves sort of reading. And each of those hobbies, she goes all in. And she does like that activity, but what she, I think, likes equal, if not maybe sometimes a little bit more, is the people that she gets to meet that so she can share that same passion with. Like, yeah, I want to learn about plants, but it's a lot better when they can learn it with somebody else. So again, kind of going about that learning thing. So, I think it goes back to also when we talk about in the rehab world, when you meet somebody, you go ask them, what do you do? So that sense of community is a sense of identity, right? That yet you're proud to be a part of. And again, yeah, I mean, you mentioned it here too. Like if we think we have a difficult time finding community, maybe we need to take the risk and create one, right? And I can understand it's risk taking. Well, do I really want to let people know that I love VHS tapes? You know, will I be respected?
Yeah, well, it's funny that you bring that up because well, you were explaining your wife's hobbies. In my brain, I don't think of community. Like I'm like plants and crocheting. That all sounds like something that I would just do by myself. That I wouldn't like share with anybody else. But we live in such an awesome age where you can share all that, and it's so
Right.
easy.
And I think
Yeah.
that's for her, the dual, right? Because she, like you do, when she's at home, she's working on her plants, but then as you put here, it's the forums and the Facebook or the Instagrams and growing to, kind of the craft fairs and stuff, and then meeting others that way. So yeah.
I I and looking at it from like a lens of a therapist, and this is something that I've been trying to do a little bit more often now, is what a lot of times when I'm working with clients, a lot of what we're trying to do is almost in a vacuum where it's like, let's learn some coping skills, let's learn some self-care stuff, and none of it involves anyone else. Or hey, here's something that you can do when you're by yourself, like 5 4 3 2 1, like deep breathing and all that other stuff. None of it involves a community. And so one thing that I've really tried doing with my clients now is looking at first what their hobbies are and seeing how they can connect with other people. And so whether that looks like really encouraging them to like join a club or to like go out and spend time with their friends or to do something that they usually wouldn't do. I have found that those pieces, those like small but mighty pieces of like fostering a sense of community does better for my clients' mental health, honestly, than hey, let's learn this breathing exercise or hey, let's do some typical CBT work. So
I mean, hopefully we're past the pandemic, but I think we're all still close enough where we're, still remembering the pandemic. And if our listeners remember Anna Zelinsky, from season 2, I asked her to come to class this Wednesday, Valentine's Day. Let's give a shout out to Anna that she came to spend Valentine's Day with us in
oh
the class, first of all. But I had a picture of her, myself, and another student, Maria Vela, that clear as day, I remember this meeting because it was the first lunch after the pandemic that the three of us, like, it was safe again to sort of eat in public and be outside and nice and all this kind of stuff. So again, this sense of like now we remember what that is or what that's like and the value versus again so many people feeling excluded from things or missing things. So again, that it was just made me think of again the value of community and being.
yeah. Next piece on our list of reasons to be a joiner is creativity. So I often don't describe myself as creative. I know that there are some people in this world that say like everyone's creative, and I have yet to see like where that starts with me. I've never really viewed myself as being creative, and I have been fortunate enough to work in an office with other therapists where in my day to day I get to learn from other people. And not only am I learning from other people, right? That's like learning new solutions, new skills, but maybe they'll share something that will then, jogging my memory to come up with a new solution to XYZ.
Yeah, I guess what I think of when I read this and hear you talk about it is the old saying, two heads are better than one, right? So there is sort of that enhanced power, learning, brain power, etc. I often think about, at Maryville, we do a lot of Clifton strengths, and maybe the creativity is knowing our strength and being able to use it in the workforce as well, or in any area of life, but we're sort of talking about, work and being a joiner that way, that may enhance the experience because you're doing things that sort of fit in your wheelhouse. I guess another thing with stimulating creativity is going back to the PERMA and positive psychology well-being, that there's the engagement, there's in the E word of PERMA, but really that's flow, right? So if we're so engaged in something that we love, we are creating in that way too. So it just makes me, when we get energized because of what we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, it typically looks like case conceptualizations. Like if we have like just a team meeting and someone's presenting a case, presenting a client that they're having a difficult time with. Whenever you're doing that with people that you trust, with people that, know their strengths and know kind of where they can provide a sense of value to the conversation, that's typically where I see it in my day to day. So, yeah.
I think there's a nice transition to our next topic, finding support during challenging times. I think this is something that really connected me to counseling and reflecting in my upbringing, that although I didn't necessarily see a counselor growing up in these times, now I feel like the Beatles, in these times of trouble, Mother Mary, but I would love to go hang out with Mr. Gall. Mr. Gall was my scoutmaster. He was MacGyver before MacGyver. He could, if the world was going to come to end, you wanted to be with him. He could have two matchsticks and save the world. I mean, he has just recently passed away as well. I can honestly say he had three sons. One, his youngest son, and I were the same. So we've known each other since kindergarten. So 47 years, maybe something like that. And
Wow.
so anyways, I could tear up and talk hours about Mr. Gall, but like being a joiner, it maybe gives you that extra person to kind of chat with when needed. Again, whether there's professional issues, personal issues, I think we all have those. Hopefully we all have those people in our lives. And I think if we, again, find different avenues of hobbies or whatnot, then we increase our chances to find those important people.
Number 9, access to resources. That sounds like such a like a I don't know why I worded it like that, but honestly, that's what it is. It's access to resources. Joining others. What I've got written here is that joining others often looks like building a bridge. And whether it's a small bridge, whether it's a big bridge with many other tiny bridges on top of the big bridge, use those bridges. Don't be afraid to ask those that you've joined for help, whether it's an idea, a program, a service that others have. Um, I can't think of a better example than just with my day to day as a therapist. I mean, a lot of my job is looking for other resources, other kinds of like case management that can help my clients, and building those bridges makes serving my clients so much easier, and in essence makes me feel more connected, and like I can make a bigger impact on those around me.
Two things. You want the serious answer or the fun answer?
Ooh, I want the fun answer first.
All right. Have you seen the movie The Holy Grail, Monty Python?
Oh yeah.
Build a bridge out of her. She's a witch.
Oh.
Build a bridge out of her.
She's made out of wood. What do
There's
you
no
do with
rocks.
wood?
But now the serious answer is you're right. You're building a support system, building connections. The more we sort of connect with others or part of organizations, you'll have that opportunity to do that.
All right, you ready to round it out?
Celebrating achievements together. Well, when I read that, I just, there's a couple of things. I know I'm being very specific to now Missouri Rehab Association, and not only the Eastern chapter, but many of the other local chapters and the state chapters, they have a yearly awards banquet. And I mean, it really just gives us a time to come together, celebrate, maybe have a little food together, and just sort of stand up and thank people, acknowledge them. I also remember going to a Starclough Disability Institute gala, and it just so happened my mother was in town, and so we had a table, and I invited her. And I don't know about you, Brayton, but sometimes describing what a rehabilitation counselor does sometimes isn't easy, right? Or
Yeah.
I don't know if your parents always knew, but after the end of that event, my mother looked at me kind of with a tear in her eye, because there was the kind of the presentations and the celebrations. She goes, "Now I get what you do and why you do it." right? And so this, maybe again, celebrating achievements is good. Actually, achievements is another piece of the PERMA acronym, right? The A, but also, again, to celebrate and to come together.
I love that story. I don't think that there's anything else that I can really provide that can better wrap up. And so with everything that we've shared, that kind of concludes the list, the 10 reasons to be a joiner in 2024. Dr. Kiener, do you think that you have any thoughts, any last kind of pieces, anything that you feel like would be a good mentor moment?
I guess I would go back to really more saying what we already said, be a joiner, but maybe said in a different way, take the risk. If you're unsure, come to a meeting. I'm sure somebody else said it in one of our sessions, like, or make a friend go with you and then go to so at least, maybe on the way home, if you're unhappy, you can sort of talk to your friend and say, hey, this was good or not good or whatnot. So you have an experience, but
Right.
have an open mind, bring a friend and give it a try.
Yeah. And I think the only thing that I would add to that as well is, we are about a month and a half into 2024. And towards the end of the article that I had written, I had encouraged readers to take a look back at 2023 and to look at the times when you were a joiner, because sometimes we can go through we're talking a lot about becoming a joiner, but there might be some listeners that have been a joiner and have continued to be a joiner, in the previous year. And so I would just love for our listeners to just take the time and reflect on their previous year. Think about the times where they took a step out of their comfort zone. Dr. Kiener, anything else before we
always,
close out?
It's a pleasure, Brayton.
Thanks, folks. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, see you next time.
Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Mentor Moments. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star review on Spotify, Apple, or anywhere that you're listening to this podcast. Be sure to follow us at Mentor Moments on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And we will see you on the next episode of Mentor Moments.
Are you ready for a career that makes a difference in your community? Consider becoming a counselor with Missouri Vocational Rehabilitation.
Vocational Rehabilitation Counselor helps people who have disabilities find a career path that helps to use their strengths. When people have the supports that they need, it makes anything possible.
I am proud that I'm able to help people change their life and reach for their dream goals.
Discover the change you can make. Visit mvr.mo.gov to get started.